Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Kenya Hamid, and I'm a neuropsychologist at the Child Mind Institute. We're a national nonprofit that supports children and families with gold standard mental health care, advice, and resources, all online and accessible to everyone. During the coronavirus crisis, our telehealth resources include diagnosis and treatment of mental health and learning disorders, 30-minute phone consultations, bereavement and grief support, and remote neuropsychological evaluations. But that's just a sampling. Please visit childmind.org/telehealth to learn more. Today, I'd like to talk about managing summer disappointment and answer your questions about that and anything else you may be wondering about. Post your questions in the feed, and we'll also post some links to helpful resources on childmind.org. Remember, we're here every day and we look through your questions daily. Okay, so this topic is one that many families are dealing with. Um, Particularly kids were likely looking forward to things like summer camp or vacations. And these are just things that have either needed to be postponed or just kind of outright canceled because of COVID. So I want to give families just kind of some tips to kind of take with you and think about as you're managing, just kind of during this time. One thing that I'll say is I know that a lot of families kind of hope that, we can provide some sort of advice to make it so that kids just kind of won't be upset, that they won't be upset. But the thing is that, bad news is upsetting. And so I think that that's expected because it's a normal reaction. But what we hopefully can help with is just kind of to manage that the disappointment. Your child is still going to feel disappointment, but hopefully we can kind of help ease that with some of our tips. So first thing that I would say is, as best as you can, you want to try and listen and acknowledge your child's frustrations by kind of talking through what it is that that makes them feel so upset about either maybe an experience that they're missing out on or just kind of something that they can't do. Um, you know, this is going to be something likely that might be a very much a big deal to them, even though in the grand scheme of things for you, you're thinking, this really isn't that big deal. But for them, this might be their whole world. Just kind of these opportunities to do something like this. Um, and there may be certain circumstances where you're unable to kind of rush in and fix that for just because of this situation that we're in with the coronavirus. Some of these plans or things like that can be altered, but others may not be able to. So by listening to your kids and validating their feelings, it helps help them process kind of what they're feeling, kind of just getting it out. But then also it may give you better insight into kind of what exactly it was that makes them feel so disappointed. Sometimes it can be just the entire experience in and of itself, but a lot of times kids have certain specific things that maybe they were looking forward to. Like for instance, if your child was going to be going to a slumber party and they knew that they were going to be able to make kind of s'mores there, that might be something that was very disappointing to them, but also something that potentially you guys could do at home. So by listening to them and getting a better understanding of what specifically was so disappointing, there are potential opportunities to intervene and help with that. Also, I just kind of want to highlight that a lot of times when kids become disappointed, they can fall into this sort of all or none type of thinking, black and white thinking, right? Something goes wrong and it just kind of feels like everything's going wrong. And now the whole ruined and now there's nothing that we're going to do and I'm going to be bored the whole entire summer, and then they start to kind of spiral in that way. And so you just kind of want to remind them, one, that that kind of everybody's going through these sort of feelings, so you're not the only one. But also too, that it doesn't mean that you'll never be able to go to another sleepover, that you'll never be able to go to camp, or you can't have fun doing anything else. We can find other things, hopefully that you might enjoy, might be something you might want to encourage in a child. So it looks like we're starting to get some questions. So our first question comes from Eliza, who writes, my daughter was going to go on a pre-college trip with her friends. They've been planning since and are totally crushed. She keeps asking if I think there's still a chance. I don't know what I don't want to get. I don't want to crush her dream either. What do I do? There's just so much uncertainty at this time, and at this moment, I don't think that it's a really good time for travel, and so maybe in a month or two's time, it may still not be a good time to travel. So, given that I don't know kind of the specifics of what this trip entailed, I would kind of want to encourage you to just start to think about, well, how long was this trip for? How far, as far as just distance, was your daughter and her friends going to? As far as was how many overnight days did this include? They're driving through different states. That may help to give you some guidance on just whether or not that this might be doable this summer. But then also just keeping in mind too that if you are kind of planning to travel across different states, there might also be some kind of quarantine restrictions. So just wanting to kind of at that point. Now, I think plan A was the trip in and of itself, but plan A might not pan out. So I think what can be helpful is to give her back some sense of control, as COVID has kind of thrown all of our lives into just kind of this state of uncertainty and just kind of feeling like you don't really have control of things, is to then try to work on maybe what a plan B or a plan C might look like. So plan B could be just postponing the trip to another time of year. And then plan C may be finding potentially modifications to the trip that could work. So you could still go on the trip, but maybe you're limiting the distance based on where you live and whether or not it would kind of be safe, or just the places that you've been. So those are just kind of some initial ideas that I think of with this question. And then here's another one from Gail, who writes, how can I help my son let go of old plans and get excited on new, albeit very different ones? Well, I think first and foremost is, you want to kind of let your child know that those old plans won't happen. So like, for instance, in our last question, it was still kind of up in the air and there was a possibility. And so when you kind of have that uncertainty, then you're still really potentially hopeful for something, because it hasn't been completely canceled at that point in time. So if you know for sure that the old plans are not going to work, you just kind of want to make sure to then clearly state that, like, we can't do this summer. It won't be able to happen. And then what can be helpful for kids too is to try and get their input, as well as when it comes to either planning or even just kind of deciding on maybe what else we could do, whether that's what they decide or maybe even when they decide to do something different to hopefully replace those changes. And as disappointing as it can be when you kind of have your mindset on doing something, with time, I hope that you can kind of come up with something else possibly maybe that's just kind of creative that can still be fun and enjoyable for a child. And just try and keep good spirits about it. That can also be helpful. Um, so we also have Jen who's asked, my daughter feels like everything is out of control. What suggestions do you have to make her feel like she has control of? Yes, and so this kind of brings me back to kind of some of the points that I was mentioning earlier. I would say giving her choices as best as possible. That definitely can make someone feel like they have more control, as well as what can also be helpful are routines, right? So if your kind of day to day is predictable, then at least there's some semblance of control there versus if it's not. So wanting to have routines as well as being able to allow opportunities for choices. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay, so um, I'm also proud to share the fact that the Child Mind Institute has gone borderless. So we're now offering telehealth appointments with our staff of dedicated clinicians to children and families in need across the nation.
The Child Mind Institute is a national leader in children's mental health and learning disorders. In the face of the coronavirus pandemic, we are here to support all families. Whether you need help with remote learning, stress management techniques, or support for children who are in distress, the Child Mind Institute is available to help your family cope during this challenging time. We're here for you wherever you are. To request an appointment, visit childmind.org/telehealth.
Okay, guys. So if you'd like to make a telehealth appointment, just 3452 anytime during this video. An intake coordinator is standing by to help. You can also make an appointment through our website at https ://childmind.org/telehealth. You'll find a link in the comments below. And so kind of we're back. Once again, I'm Dr. Hamid, and we're talking about managing summer disappointment. So we've got another question. This one's from Francesca, and she says, my son has mild autism and hates when things change. This has been a very trying time for us, but I've been holding on to hope that summer would be a return to normal and our usual vacation, which he is very, very excited about. Now it looks like that won't happen, and I'm at the end of my rope. What do I say? How can I help him? So as I mentioned before too, as much as we want to try and prevent a child's disappointment, this is going to be just upsetting news. And one thing that we who are diagnosed with autism, oftentimes they do have difficulty when it comes to um, shifting kind of sets and perspectives. They have maybe a particular certain world expectation of how they want something to be. And when that does not happen, they can become very frustrated when they're kind of being asked to maybe think differently about something. So I think just kind of reminding your son that we're all really disappointed about this. We were all really looking forward to this. Um, and just kind of discussing just kind of that emotional piece that, yeah, this really sucks. And we're kind of all very upset. But unfortunately, we won't be able to go on vacation. But why don't we try and work together that we think maybe that you'll really enjoy? Now, he, of course, may need some time to kind of just process and kind of sit with this. So it might not be something that you might want to just kind of immediately jump into, but potentially revisit at a later date. There's also something on my mind when I think about this question, just in the fact of sometimes families and parents may say it's better to let their kids know kind of bad news um, ahead of time. And others may kind of want to wait until much more later on when they kind of expected that thing to happen, and then you kind of break the news to the child kind of right then and there. And they're, two different boats as far as whether you tell your child sooner rather than later. And that's probably going to just depend on your own unique situation, because we've got some kids that may have difficulty with um, making that. And so if you tell them too far in advance, they terminate and kind of think about this, for weeks on end, and are disappointed for weeks on end, and then kind of letting this go. Um, um, so it's easier to closer to the vacation to unfortunately break that news. But on the other hand, um, if you're telling them kind of too late, that could also make them very upset. So I think in kind of this scenario, you as the parent or caregiver, you kind of know your child best as far as whether or not they kind of need to know this information more ahead of time in advance, or just kind of maybe right before it was supposed to happen, you kind of break the news to them. So very good questions, guys. All right. So we also have another question from Nicole, and she writes, I feel so guilty and sad that my child can't do the things she loves or see or try all the activities I've been so excited to show her. I know we're supposed to be asking about our children, but I'd love any suggestions you have for now on how to manage my own feelings about disappointment as well. Well, I think this is definitely a valid question, because we're kind of all just dealing with disappointment all around, right? Not just children, but adults too. And at times, adults are dealing with disappointment about things that they anticipated for their children. What I think could be helpful is to kind of reframe this for yourself, and, kind of think about, have some level of gratitude for kind of what you have been able to show her and what she has been able to do thus far, as well as just know, this is, once again, it's kind of like not that all or none thinking, that even if she can't do some of those things right now that maybe you had planned, or that that she loves so much, it doesn't mean that down the road she won't be able to do them, right? So we kind of hold out some level of hope that things are definitely going to get better at some point in time, and then you'll be able to do those things. As well as another thing that I think about is, just because she can't do those things, or can't be exposed to kind of whatever you wanted to show her, teach her, it doesn't mean that she can't currently find happiness or even pleasure in kind of doing something different. So at times we kind of have ideas for how we see or envision things for our child that don't always pan out. And it's okay to know that that's okay. That's kind of life, and that happens. But she can still get fulfillment and pleasure and happiness, you know, by doing something else. And hopefully down the road, other things will kind of come into play. So um, I'm wondering if we have any more questions from families, or if I just kind of addressed all of those things at this point in time. I know that, a lot of the kids out there, I mean, this is a very, very, very big deal to them, and they are dealing with a lot of disappointment. And so once again, it can be helpful just to kind of remind them that kind of everybody's really disappointed. Um, in some ways, there can kind of be like a bonding experience about this. Maybe you can tell your child about a time where um, you've dealt with a disappointment, and just kind of model for them maybe how you handled it, or, how you got through it. Just kind of giving them some ideas and just kind of learning tools. Um, we also have another question, and this writer just kind of wants to know how to stay connected with summer camp and vacation friends. Well, I think that currently maybe everyone is officially zoomed out of using sort of like a video call platforms, but that's always an option, as well as kind of going back to our standard kind of snail mail, where kids can send each other letters, or even sometimes too, like a picture can be helpful if you have a child's address. Um, and, scheduling get-togethers via video call. If you want to kind of get, more than one person, two or three friends. I know for many families, being able to see, for their child to see other kids, it's just kind of not safe at this point in time. But just reminding them that at some point it will be. And so I think that we don't have many options right now when it comes to staying connected with others, but I think we at least do have a couple of good options, which can be just kind of video calls, um, sending gifts, uh, letters, pictures, things like that. That can be very helpful. And if you guys also have kind of any ideas of how you've been kind of managing things, please feel free to kind of let us know in the comments. We read them. And so do so many other families. So I want to thank you all again for joining me. I hope it was helpful. And remember, we're here every day and we look through your questions daily. The Child Mind Institute is here to help with the mental health and parenting needs of this coronavirus crisis, no matter where you are. Please visit childmind.org/telehealth to learn more about the incredible variety of remote telehealth resources we have available during this time for children, teens, and young adults. Be safe, and thank you.